I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Happy Friday. It is Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. Appreciate you joining us. It is a game day 2 times here for Red Raider Athletics, which means it's Optimum Game Day Live here on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. You have track and field beginning their outdoor season over at ACU in the West Kitley Invitational. You also have Texas Tech softball hosting Oklahoma this weekend. That'll start tonight at 6. And then we're leading you up to Red Raider basketball as they advance in the Big 12 Championship yesterday to take on the Houston Cougars today. That'll be at 5 o'clock, so a little bit shorter program here for Tech Talk. 6 o'clock over on 100.7 The Score. You can hear the start of Red Raider baseball. They're on the road in Waco, starting their first conference road series against the Bears. That is a 6:30 first pitch in 6 o'clock coverage time there on The Score. We are live from the First United Bank studio. You can call us on the Visual Edge IT hotline. That number is 806-771-0973. You can also hit us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Thoughts, comments, questions, predictions for any of the matchups that you want to give us. We'll take it there. Take us anywhere with the mobile app, brought to you by Happy State Bank. We're streaming live on Fox 34 News now and on YouTube. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, Kyler Brown behind the glass. Gus.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Are we? Sounded like we were testing some stuff.
No, I don't think so. I mean, Jamie's connecting the Learfield over here, but yeah, we're in the ballpark.
Jamie's been known to be the loud one in the building, so that makes sense. Yeah.
Let me see if I can do this here. There it is, setting the stage for you.
There it is. Now, the picture's a little bit far away from me here in the studio. It looks to be clear in the sky.
No,
it's not.
It's not too bad. I mean, it's a little clearer, a little more clear than it was earlier. A big storm thing blew just northwest of town, and kind of, it was just a big old glob of storms, kind of late morning, and it missed Waco, and so really in good shape now. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that was the end of it, but that was sort of what was forecast to happen. The fact that it missed town by 20 miles is just fine. But yeah, I think so. It's been sort of gray and overcast, temperature in the 60s, probably a little bit chilly, but it's at this point very playable. They had the field tarped, so should be good to go here, unless there's more coming.
Now, again, you're, as I've noted several times, you're my personal weatherman at this point. What about the rest of the weekend? Have you seen any, like, the report on everything?
Yeah, I need to recheck tomorrow. The thing I saw this morning sort of confirmed what we had thought, which is that the best weather day of the 3 is Sunday. And so, it would be, I mean, all of us, both of us here in this booth would prefer to not do a doubleheader just because we're old and, we have to, like, go to the bathroom often and stuff like that. But, you don't have, like, a bucket
up in every booth you go to?
No.
The classic empty Gatorade bottle situation?
Right here next to us. So that's good news. But but anyway, crotchety and old at this age, doubleheader's hard. But worst case scenario, if we get one in tonight or tomorrow, and then you could get in 2 on Sunday. But right now, I think we're in good shape across the board. But still like 70% chance tomorrow. So we'll see. I mean, I may be saying all this, and we may have trouble here tonight. But I can tell you that the worst of it just missed us. And when we got here, they were pulling the tarp off the field. So this is natural turf surface, drains really nice, and always has, and they will tarp it if it's getting close. So they'll watch this like a big league stadium. somebody's watching the weather and doing that deal.
Did you or Jamie offer to grab a corner of the tarp? Lend a hand?
Having pulled tarp before. I know you're just saying that to be funny, but having pulled tarp before, I can tell you that would be the last thing I would help with, unless they were absolutely desperate for bodies. But that's like a tarp that's been rolled up is kind of usually, if it's been rolled up for a while, especially once you get on hot into the summer, if it's been rolled up down there for 10 days or whatever, when you do unroll it, all the water that was sort of, on there that never really evaporated kind of smells moldy and stuff. And the first thing you do is fold that tarp out and you're pulling it out on the field. That stuff's splashing around a little bit. And it's kind of a nasty deal. Like when I was a baseball intern, we would get involved with pulling tarp. They would get all the concessionaires and interns, and it was like, hey, there's rain in the forecast. Make sure you bring some old clothes. And so if the rain started getting close, we'd be in there changing into an old pair of blue jeans to take off your clean collared shirt and your khakis and all that stuff, because it's about to get skanky. And the tarp pulling deal can be bad when, but anyway, those taking it off here is probably not bad because it had dried out and hadn't been rained on. So this on this day it wasn't bad. But
I've always said you got to watch out for skanky tarps. That is a danger in today's world.
Let me tell you something. If it's somebody that knows what they're talking about, they're going to nod at you and go, yeah, you do want to stay away from skanky tarps.
You got probably living organisms now that have built their way in there. They're mutating. Everything that can be green or mossy is starting to grow on there. Bugs.
Hey, I did see this. Lubbock Christian baseball playing their series. It was supposed to be in Colorado. The weather's bad up there. They've moved it to Lubbock, but they've moved so it's not at LCU's field. They're playing it at Texas Tech this weekend. So if you're just itching to see college baseball, go to Danlaw Field at Rip Griffin Park and you can watch the Shaps play a road series. Road in air quotes, but I guess the weather forecast up there was so bad they just said, hey, we'll come to you, but let's not play it at your field. And
I love the stay-at-home road series. It's like a staycation, right? Where you stay in town, just go to the hotel.
There's a willingness to get the games in, so you appreciate that. I hear you.
On the other side of that, if you were like, oh yeah, well I know Texas Tech is at Baylor, and you see action going on over there, I thought the Red Raiders were on the road. Well, it's LCU, so. Information. That's what we're bringing here early. It is Tech Talk on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com, rolling right along on a Friday. 2 hours with us as we make our way up to Red Raider basketball here on Double T 97.3. Red Raider baseball over on 100.7 The Score. When we come back, headlines round one. It is the Juice.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Can-Tech's Roofing and Construction.
Happy Friday. It is Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, Kyler Brown behind the glass. We're leading you up to Red Raider basketball here on Double T 97.3. 5 o'clock start time for that. So shortened edition of Tech Talk. You'll hear Red Raider baseball over on 100.7 The Score. That is a 6 o'clock start for coverage as they are live from Waco. Gus, sweeping, doesn't matter who you're up against, especially on the road, is easier said than done. But if you're looking at a team in the Big 12 with the expectation of doing that, this is that team, right?
List, they figure to be on down the standings a little bit, but it's never easy. That is never easy, and for a variety of reasons. But this would be a great time to do it, and it's kind of that those dudes don't need to be feeling a bunch of pressure to do something like that 3 games in, but it's also like you sort of do what we as fans do and talk show people and all that stuff. You kind of look at the schedule and go, hey, maybe an opportunity here, but it's, it's just hard to do. You count the number of road sweeps from some really good teams. You can count them on just a hand,
Sure.
a couple of hands. Yeah.
And I know it's early, but, I mean, we already cracked open the Big 12 championship talk before you played Texas at home. So we might as well keep rolling on with it, Gus.
Yeah.
It seems like you have, to me, one of those it's not a make or break series, but whenever you do look back at whoever wins the Big 12 championship, these are the type of series that certainly don't want to lose. Certainly don't want to lose. Certainly don't want to drop 2 in Waco or anything like that. But the opportunity to sweep, as far as them being a lower team on the scale in the Big 12, that if you were to complete it, like those kind of heel turn type games in a series, whatever that one may be, if you do go 2-1 this weekend, you may look back and like, oh man, that Saturday or whatever, or that Sunday game when you had the chance to sweep, would have liked to have that one back.
Oh, absolutely. And they had a guy career through a legit good game. It wasn't a situation where there was a bunch of sloppiness around it, and it was a game going along at like a 3-2, maybe even 3-3 game, something like that. And Kyle Robinson had been zipping along, maybe like into his four plus innings of work, and finally, in relief. He'd come in the third and pitched out of that, maybe giving up a run in the fifth or something, and he's buzzing along 6-7. And I think Girton came on with 2 on and 2 out and gave up a base hit that broke that game open. And instead of it being a tie game, maybe us down, maybe it was 4-3, 3-3, whatever. But anyway, Cam Cauley for them had come in with a huge ERA or whatever, but he was mixing pitches, just crafty lefty that day. And I don't mean like soft throwing lefty, but just, he threw a really good game and a couple of line outs here and this and that and whatever. And then all of a sudden 3-3 becomes 5-3 or 6-3 or whatever. And then that changed it late. And, it was a hard one to finish off and a tough one to stomach. But at the same time, that guy pitched their guy had a career day. And, just the way it goes.
Let's go through each day real quick. Let's start with Kyle Robinson, who's looking to have a much better Friday night than he did last Friday. What does he need to do differently tonight against the Bears than what happened against the Longhorns?
Yeah, I think he'll have to steady himself. I mean, last week our ballpark, that was an extremely offensive day. And we got smoked and still scored 8 or whatever. The wind was howling and all that. Probably won't have to be probably going to be a little more of a pitcher-friendly environment here, so that part will help. But and he didn't give up a ton of. He wasn't like sloppy, walking people, whatever. But he did pitch behind in enough counts that he put himself in trouble. But I think just minimize damage. If he does give up a run in there, that it's a 1 or maybe a 2 and not a 7, which is what did him in last week. He got in that 7-run inning because we had texters and people saying, "Hey, why don't we get him out quicker?" Blah blah blah. Well, it was a 4-4 game in the 4th, and they had 2 on and 2 outs. Okay, we're no runs in, no nothing, and guy gets a base hit, maybe a 2-strike base hit. Drives in 1, and then a first pitch single right behind it. And then so 2 runs are in, you're starting to go, all right, this inning's getting long, and then a 3-run jack. And now you're like, okay, this, starting to blow up on him. And then like it gets to get somebody hot. But you're still thinking you're 1 out away. So get the dugout, walk. Then somebody starts getting hot. Remember, it's 39 degrees outside, another walk, mound visit, and so that, if he's going to struggle, a 1 needs to be a 1 and not a crooked number. I mean, we always say crooked number, but that's this, and he's due to be good, but this isn't a Murphy's Law thing. You are good because you go out and execute and do things, and he wasn't sharp last week for sure, and needs to be good here. So let's go really to set a tone. I mean, setting a tone for Friday night, such a big deal.
Let's go to Saturday. So you have Hewer starting again today, who did look really good in the series against Texas. If he goes out and pitches well tomorrow, kind of the same way. Does that Saturday spot feel like it's locked down?
Yeah, this will be interesting. And Jamie and I talked about this, and there's nothing that we've heard or anything, but you're just kind of thinking through like how good Petty was on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. That's your Saturday starter at the beginning of the year, right? Mm-hmm. And so, how will they treat that? Will he get another Saturday start against Abilene Christian? Will he maybe just throw an inning or two here on, maybe tomorrow or Sunday, mm-hmm. and then set him up? Because what do we have next week? We have a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Like, if they want to get him back into the rotation, into the weekend, he could. Next week might not be a bad time to do it because you got a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the next week after that at UCF, Easter weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and so it'll be interesting to see how they play that. If they just leave him for the ACU start and see if he can string together 2 good outings and then get him to the weekend, or if they immediately jump him back in there. Then some of that may be dictated by how well does Robinson throw, how mm-hmm. well does Washburn throw, maybe even Hewer. Although I would think that Hewer earned himself some points last week, but
yeah,
Big Mac doing what he did last year. I mean, now for him the challenge is just simply what it is for everybody: basketball, football, you name it. Do it again.
Consistency.
Consistency and just stringing things together. They don't all have to be 6 innings of 1 run or whatever. It'd be great, but just stringing together good outings and good performances and staying in the zone and all that.
It's Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3, DoubleT97.3.com. We'll be back with more next. When we return, it is Back in Time.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Can Tech's Roofing and Construction.
It's Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3 and DoubleT97.3.com. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, Kyler Brown, coming out live from the First United Bank studio. You can call us on the Visual Edge IT hotline. That number is open for you, 806-771-0973. You can also hit us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Thoughts, comments, questions, all that welcome there. Take us anywhere with the mobile app, brought to you by Happy State Bank. We're also streaming live on Fox 34 News Now and on YouTube. We will get Kyler's play of the day here in just a moment. Get a couple more questions off the Yates Flooring Center chat line first. We got this.
You hearing Mr. Brightside going on here? You hear that?
I'm not.
Good one. It's a good BP song. Go ahead. That'd be on my list of 20.
Okay. Uh-huh. Yeah. What's your 20 track to get you jazzed?
Yeah. No, I know. Yeah.
Gus is in the
zone. We can
zone.
play that game at some point. That would take some curation, but yeah, we can think about that.
What 100 songs would you pick?
Okay, all right. Number 78.
That's how we're going to kill an entire week in the month of July.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
What 100 tracks would you pick to get you jazzed up to bat? Okay. I don't know why I used jazz once with Jamie, and I thought it was funny, so I'm sticking with it.
I want to see you do Fosse hands when you do that.
He's coming up to bat.
Charleston.
Yeah.
See if I
need
Charleston.
Yes, please do.
Read the text.
Yes.
Read the text.
Is that the Charleston? I guess I didn't know that the knee move was the Charleston.
Yes.
What's the one where you like that was fantastic, by the way, where you where you step forward and then you step back and then you what's that one? That's what I thought.
That's part of it. Isn't it all part of it?
Is it all this it's like maneuver? Like there's like 80 moves to it? It's not like the Superman where you're cranking that, or like the Soldier Boy, where it's just like one thing. I don't know where we're going. Okay, let's get this off the chat line. We're talking about Aaron Donald retiring. Does Donald retire and come out of retirement next year?
I wondered about that, or if this is don't know the situation, but I wondered if that was maybe a play to either switch his situation around or whatever. I don't know if there's official paperwork and at some point that you can't undo it or whatever, but he probably has a little more football in him. And would he, sign with somebody on December 1st or, November 15th and I don't know that. when I heard that, I thought, but I would be, but good for him if he holds off and if he holds off and stays out of the game, maybe he's viewing it for health or family or whatever. But whatever he does, good for him. But
because it feels like even after he sits out this season, whatever, if he, like it seems like physically he has plenty left in the tank and plenty ability to still go, and I think he could have played for a few more years had he wanted to. The question is just is he going to miss it, or on the other side, if he's on the fence, can someone talk him back into it, or whatever the case would be? But it seems like he's a guy that could play a few more years if he wanted to. It's not like he's just had this dramatic slowdown or there's just this huge injury list that is just, every single year the past 3 seasons, something has kept him out. And he's, like I said, if he has lost a step, it hasn't been by very much. And even his quote-unquote lost a step is a lot better at 32 than a lot of guys coming into the league or that have been in the league for 4 or 5 years, because he's just been that dominant.
Yeah, and that's, some guys getting out maybe a year early and getting out closer to the top of their game or before he's had a catastrophic injury. It's hard to argue with that.
Kyler, will you please give us your play of the day? Make it jazzy.
Traore to Hall. Hall backs up for a stuff on a 3 by Robert Jennings. My goodness, this guy and his improvement. I got chills watching Robert Jennings just stride and develop into a baller. Toussaint goes to the left, out to Darian Williams. 4:50 on the big clock. Chance McMillan. He's got 16 points, 14, I beg your pardon. 10 on the shot clock to Joe. He's going to shoot a 3. Bang! A guns up 3 ball. And on the Big 12 logo, Joe Toussaint. 10 on the shot clock. Approaches, shaking with the shoulders, double teamed, throws it to Williams. Set shot 3. Bang! Back to back in your face!
Our Red Raiders handled business yesterday in the quarterfinal against BYU and look to advance to the Big 12 championship game as they take on the Houston Cougars in the semifinals tonight. Guns up, baby.
81-67 was the final yesterday against BYU. A great resume win as well. You could have an even better one if you get it done tonight against Houston. That'll be, of course, after we're done in about 40 minutes from now. 5 o'clock start time on Double T 97.3. Like the very first play with Robert Jennings, we've talked about this some, and Yalaho is in this conversation too. Man, it's needed to be a patient watch with those guys, especially Jennings, because he's had the most cracks at it, and even coming off the bench for Washington when he was healthy. But man, the past... It's funny. I think the month of February, while you were struggling in other regards, he has started to really figure it out and take steps forward. And I wouldn't, I'm not saying he's quite a force or anything like that yet, but he has certainly affected basketball games in a very positive way for the Red Raiders, which is very encouraging for the tournament you're about to start up.
Yeah, and he's, he's in a year where we lack size, his emergence has been just critical. Mm-hmm. And he probably has showed himself to maybe be a better athlete than most of us would seem, maybe would have thought, because we don't get to see him being free and easy and move around or as much of, what he's flashed lately. And a lot of that was because he played, 4 minutes and get a rebound or whatever. But and I think there's something to be said for just a confident, athletic guy that's, playing confident and feeling some, kind of into his flow in a way that he can go just be the natural player he's always been. Mm-hmm. And, less robotic and just all the things that you would think a guy would, from the freshman to the sophomore. And, such a critical part of the narrative of this season. And then, and EY is probably a different type player, but there's been a point at which EY was probably like Jennings that you go, and he's buried down at the individual playing some blowouts. The minutes have gotten more meaningful, and there have been some steps and some things where, just you would think coming out of this year, and again, who knows about the portal and all that, but if they're both back, that both of them are an entirely different type player than they are, right now. Just a more confident and into their flow.
We got this on the Yates Flooring Center chat line when we were talking about Kyle Robinson earlier. One answer: throw freaking strikes.
Well, no doubt. Although you said it about everybody, but he's no exception. And him throwing more strikes, absolutely, because the stuff works. But yep. Well said.
We'll answer a baseball and a basketball question off the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Not a combination one, two different ones. It's not a Pizza Hut, Taco Bell. It is Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3, DoubleT97.3.com. Back with more next.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Solving life's mysteries one at a time.
Woo! Oh, wow! Woo! Yeah! Oh my. It's starting to even look like a triple rainbow.
This is Tech Talk on Double T 97.3.
30 more minutes with us here on Tech Talk. You've got us on Double T 97.3 and DoubleT97.3.com at 5 o'clock. Red Raider basketball. You'll hear pregame coverage for it here on Double T 97.3. 6 o'clock tip, Big 12 Championship, semifinal round with the Red Raiders taking on the top-ranked Houston Cougars. Hit us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Thoughts, comments, questions. Answer a couple questions here. Gus, we got this first for baseball. Sweep, swept, 2-1, 1-2. What do we expect this weekend?
Well, I'll say sweep. I'm hoping for a sweep, that's for sure. If I was throwing money around in Vegas, that's a tougher bet. But it needs to happen, And it's if it doesn't happen, it's not a disaster, but you got to come down here for the series for sure.
I think I'd put my money down on a sweep. I don't.
You're right. We
yeah.
need it. Yeah.
And you've ran into bad teams in the Big 12 before and haven't been able to sweep them, especially on the road. I get that is part of it. I think you're going to see a bounce back from losing the series last week. And I think you're going to see a lot of offense this weekend from the Red Raiders.
Hope so. We'll say this: Kevin Bazell is on this trip and is available. How's that? How's that for some news?
There you go. Tracy in Dallas had asked if Kevin Bazell was back this weekend, and that answers.
Note that what I said is available.
Available.
Yeah.
So it somewhat answers
available
that.
Means might DH, might pinch hit. We'll see. Don't believe he'll catch it. Don't believe he can catch it.
This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. We'll go to basketball now. Outside of a prayer from powers above, what do you all think this basketball team has to do to pull the upset? Houston looks like a bulldozer right now.
Yeah, they do. I mean, and what just leaps off the page at them, and I can't answer that question from a really tactical, perspective of what it takes to beat those guys. But the thing that they do that just leaps out at you is just just how tenacious they are and frantic they are on defense. I mean, when there's a loose ball, they're all over it. They've got that dog thing that you hear, sort of become a piece of the narrative over the last 5 years or so, or whatever, that you seem to hear more. When there's a ball loose on the floor, they are all over it.
Yeah.
And it's a good group of athletes. And so, I would say this, probably have to match some of that as much as you can, but I don't think you can go into that game thinking it's going to be a loose 85-80 game. Maybe it will be, but I would think that the narrative needs to be try to match their defensive intensity. Find a way to make sure Shed, the best player in the Big 12, that they don't get loose in a way that you're playing behind those dudes. Because I think wasn't there a graphic yesterday? You and I were in the studio that they were like, I want to say that I saw something like it's the 5th time this year that they've held a team to less than 25 points in the first half.
Yeah.
I mean, just smother your butt right out of the gate, and create such a, all of a sudden you go in and they're up 11, they're up 17 at half or whatever because they just smother you. And so I'm sure it's take care of the ball and it's all those things. It just feels like to me this game doesn't get won offensively, it gets won defensively by, maybe for it to be something that works for us, we can somehow play the game in a 60-57 type score. That's just me saying that. They're so good defensively.
I look at this game and you said, maybe, don't think it's going to be an 85-80 game. If you were somehow able to get this into a high scoring game, I think that would bode better for you than a low scoring game. Just because it feels like that is what Houston wants to play, is a choke you out possession type game, and they've just won so many of those. For me, there's 2 things that jump off the page. And look, when you're facing a team against Houston, like Houston, that's as good as they are, there's a long list of things that you need to do to beat them. But the first 2 things that jump off the page to me is, one, I look at who we just talked about, Robert Jennings, Darian Williams, Yalaho, the bigs that you do have, and really you can say do this as a team, but it starts to me mentality-wise with those guys is you have to have the same approach that you have the past 4 games. You have to play physically. You cannot be bullied by them, and you can't just give up a bunch of second chance points for the Cougars, and you've done a better job of that the past 4 games. So it starts there. One for me. The other side is offensively. They're just they're not going to give you anything. It is going to be a chore to find easy buckets tonight, to find open looks, to find transition baskets. So to me, when you do find those, you have to take advantage. It can't be like an off shooting night or something like that, or you give up a couple of gimmies or bunnies or something like that. This is not the opponent to do that against. Because those opportunities are just few and far between in a typical game against Houston's defense. So those are the first 2 things that I look at, and then you can go like to the old things that you need to do against every opponent. Like you can't just turn over the ball a bunch. You have to value your possessions against Houston. You can't get into foul trouble with any of your size. I also think what we learned against Baylor too is you can't see Williams and Isaacs find their way out of the game, because that was the first example where they both had been, to me, as far as if my memory serves me correctly, that's the first time in that game against Baylor where you saw Isaacs and you saw Williams both get into foul trouble at the same time, and they are just such key pieces in your offense that's when all of a sudden your offense disappeared. I think both of them need to have good games.
I think it goes without saying that our margin for error is much smaller than theirs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so, and that's why they're the top team in the country right now. I mean,
absolutely, absolutely.
They have earned it. I'll say that.
Tip your cap and go find a way. Yeah.
It is Tech Talk on Double T 97.3.
This has been the Tech Talk Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet97.3.com.